Horror sequels usually go one of two ways. They either repeat the formula or they blow it up. Ready or Not 2 doesn't repeat anything. It takes the original idea and pushes it into something much bigger. The question is, does that make it better or does it break what worked? The first Ready or Not was simple. One house, one night, one brutal game. This sequel expands everything. More locations, more players, higher stakes. And this time, Grace isn't alone. Samara Weaving returns, but now she's paired with Kathryn Newton as her sister. That changes the entire structure. It's no longer just about survival, it's about protecting someone else while trying to survive something even bigger. The tone is still here. It's violent, it's fast, and it's still darkly funny. But it's also messier. Here, there's more mythology, more rules, and less of that tight, controlled tension from the first film. So if you're expecting the same experience, this isn't that. But if you want to see the idea pushed further, this definitely delivers. Welcome back to A Constantly Racing Mind, where we are doing a non-spoiler review of Ready or Not, Here I Come. I'm Rob, and if you're into sci-fi, horror, action-adventure, prop culture, and all things geek, and deep dives into what works and what doesn't, you're in the right place. So here's where the movie goes. The Ladamas family was never the whole story. There's a larger network, multiple elite families, all tied to the same ritual, and Grace becomes the center of a new game, survive until dawn or die. But now, multiple groups are competing for control. The twist comes from a loophole. Grace can escape the game through marriage. After the Ladamas family's explosive finale, Grace is rushed to the hospital. However, she quickly learns that the Lodamases were just one small branch of a global high council of 6 elite families who all serve Mr. LaBelle. Because Grace survived, a secession clause is triggered. The other families must now hunt her down to claim the high seat. You know, the leadership of the entire cult. If Grace survives until dawn, she becomes the ruler of the council and effectively the world. Grace is reunited with her estranged sister, Faith, played by Kathryn Newton. Their relationship is tense. Faith feels abandoned by Grace, but they are forced to team up when they are kidnapped from the hospital and taken to a massive resort owned by the Danforth family. They are the primary antagonists, led by Ursula, Sarah Michelle Gellar, and her sadistic brother, Titus, Sean Hatosy. Their father is played by David Cronenberg. He doesn't last too long in the film. Elijah Wood plays the council's unnamed lawyer and Mr. LaBelle's representative, acting as dungeon master who ensures everyone follows the 15-pound book of rules. The kills are significantly more elaborate. One rival family member is boiled alive and another is impaled through the throat. A mid-movie highlight involves a high-stakes confrontation in a ballroom set to total eclipse of the heart. The writing expands the world, but that comes with trade-offs. The characters are stronger this time, especially the relationship between Grace and her sister. But the more the movie explains the system, the less threatening it becomes. The direction leans into the scale, but there is more movement, more set pieces, faster pacing. It's well executed, but it loses some of the claustrophobic tension that made the first film work so well. The cinematography is clean and readable. It serves the action, but doesn't stand out visually, and the score stays restrained. It supports the tension without overpowering. The directors, or creative leads, like in Project Hail Mary, there are 2 directors for this film, Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette. Together, they are both of the filmmaking group Radio Silence. These are the same directors as the first film, known for blending horror, humor, and fast pacing. They also worked on Scream 2022 and Scream 6, and left after the firing of Melissa Barrera after there. The primary focus is continuity. The tone and style is familiar. The script is brought to us by Guy Busick and R. Christopher Murray. They wrote the original Ready or Not. They also worked on modern horror like Scream 7, so we can expect the same mix of satire, gore, and dark humor. These are the people shaping how the movie feels, the look, the rhythm, and the sound. And across the board, they come from fast modern horror that prioritizes clarity and momentum. Now here we get into the cast. Samara Weaving still carries the movie, but what's intriguing is how different the performances feels this time. She's built a reputation in horror for playing characters who feel alive under pressure. Samara's key horror roles, Ready or Not, is raw survival. her panic turned into control. Then there's that final scream laugh that defined the role. In The Babysitter, controlled chaos, charisma mixed with menace. She plays dangerously with a smile. Scream 6, like many before her in the opening sequence, which is a short role, but shows how well she handles tension quickly. In Azrael, Samara Weaving strips everything back. No dialogue, just pure physical performance, and still carries the entire film through presence alone. So what does she bring to this film? Well, this isn't the same Grace. She's more controlled, more strategic, less reactive. It feels like someone who already understands the rules, and that's the shift. Film 1 was survival. 2 is navigate. She's not panicked anymore. She is choosing. In Ready or Not, Here I Come, it's exactly that. Weaving's strength is that she never feels like a typical final girl. She can be messy, she can be angry, she can be darkly funny, and that keeps the character grounded even when the movie gets bigger. Samara Weaving doesn't just survive war, she adapts to it, and this time she's already ahead of the game. Kathryn Newton is the biggest addition, and she brings a very different kind of energy. She's been building toward this role across multiple horror projects since Freaky. Balanced comedy and fear, played both victim and aggressor. Abigail, same directing team, showed she can handle ensemble chaos and tension. 14 years ago in Paranormal Activity 4, Kathryn Newton grounds the chaos. She played it real, which makes everything around her feel more unsettling. Even early on, you can see it, Kathryn Newton's strength in reaction. She made the fear feel real. Here in Ready or Not 2, she's the emotional anchor, more reactive, more expressive. Feels like someone dropped into something she doesn't understand. Therefore, she gives the audience a point of entry, a reason to care beyond survival, and become invested in the dynamic with Grace, which in my mind makes the sequel work. Grace is experienced, while Faith is overwhelmed. That contrast creates tension in almost every scene. We know families are complicated, which means their relationship is not clean. There's resentment, there's history, there's friction, and I think that keeps it from feeling like a typical protected sibling setup. It works for me because Newton's strength is reaction. She sells the fear, she sells the confusion, and she makes the chaos feel real, which balances out Weaving's control. Newton brings the human side of the story, the part that still reacts like this shouldn't be happening. Other notable cast members that fall into the horror genre are Kevin Durand from The Strain on TV, Resident Evil Retribution, Elijah Wood, Maniac, The Faculty, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and The Grudge, and David Cronenberg, Shivers, The Fly, and Crimes of the Future. Check out my review of that film, a true modern horror of existential proportions. So before I tell you what my final thoughts are, let's check in with what the Critic aggregate scores say. As this is still opening week, Ready or Not had to go up against Project Hail Mary. Go ahead and see my spoiler and non-spoiler reviews on that film, and Scream 7 and Undertone are still in theaters. I did reviews on those as well. I'm sure that within this coming week, scores will stabilize, and if you use those to determine how you spend your money, good luck. Currently, Ready or Not, Here I Come is landing in the solid but divisive range. Low 70s on Rotten Tomatoes, low 60s on Metacritic. So critics like it, but they're not at all on the same page. On Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score is 72%, but the audience score is 78%. Critics are split, but leaning positive. However, audience numbers are slightly higher, with fans of the first film showing up. Most critics agree that the film was fun, chaotic, and expanded the concepts. I totally agree. However, it loses the tension and simplicity of the original. On Metacritic, the scores are slightly lower. The critic score is approximately 62 out of 100, while the user scores remain around 7.2 out of 10. Metacritic is more mixed than Rotten Tomatoes and falls into generally favorable but inconsistent territory. Currently, IMDb is showing the user rating at 7.1 out of 10. Solid but not a breakout. I think critics like Samara Weaving's performance, as it is still very strong. Well, what did I think? This is a bigger movie. In some ways that helps. In other ways it pulls away from what made the first one special. The tension is lower, but the ideas are larger. And whether that works for you will come down to one thing. Do you want the story to stay simple, or are you okay with evolving into something more chaotic? For me, this works more than it doesn't. Barely, but it's not as tight as the original. But I did think that the two women leads had excellent sibling chemistry. Watching people die is fun in a twisted way. The blood-soaked joke is starting to wear thin, but it still worked for this film. I like Ready or Not, Here I Come, which is a solid 3 out of 5. If you made it this far, hit the like and subscribe. It helps the channel more than you think. Check out the merch store if you want to support the channel directly. And if you're heading to the theater, don't forget to check out Run P so you don't miss anything important. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.